What's going on, people? Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Esther, and in this series I'm going to be talking about coronavirus, how it came about, where it originated from, you know, what we're being told on the news, and the solutions that we can do, like homemade remedies that we can do to overcome this pandemic or epidemic, and the questions that we should be asking ourselves, you know, because we have to. Why not? So the main reason or the main aim I'm making this series is just to show you guys what's out there, you know, because, and obviously just to inspire you guys to take initiative to make your own research and like find out things for yourselves, because you can't just believe everything that we're being told on the news. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying that they're wrong or they're, you know, but I'm just saying you are your own person. Take initiative to make your own research, because there's actually more to the story than what we're being told. It's on us to actually find out what that is, especially in the time that we're living like this, where information is all out there and it's just an easy click to get the right information. Do you get what I mean? So let's get to it. What is coronavirus, you know? Or what is COVID-19? COVID-19 is a disease caused by a virus, which is coronavirus. It's a new virus that emerged by the end of last year in China.
In December 2019, China notified the World Health Organization of several cases of human respiratory illness, a disease later named COVID-19. The virus causing this disease is known as severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. The disease spreads through small droplets that are expelled from the nose or mouth when a person with COVID-19 coughs or exhales.
Wuhan, China, a sprawling city of 11 million people. It was here that coronavirus, our invisible, brutal enemy, was born, festering at least a month and a half before the world was told.
The Chinese report says at least 266 people had contracted the virus and were under surveillance. The very first case was tracked back on 17th of November 2019. And that was weeks before the authorities actually told the public that the virus, you know, was starting to get out there, or like there was a virus.
Testing labs that had cracked the code and identified the mystery flu as a new coronavirus strain were ordered to hand over or destroy their samples. They were not allowed to release their findings.
Like, the Chinese government was criticized by that action, because they were trying to suppress the virus, and obviously, like, this is a virus that you can't really keep quiet about. It's affecting people, like, from one person to another just by breathing. It's an airborne virus.
A person with COVID-19 coughs or exhales. Therefore, standing close to someone who is infected can put you at risk.
And they actually cracked down doctors who tried to warn their colleagues or like people of the public about this SARS-like virus which was emerging. Like, they were silent.
Dr. Li Wenliang, the whistleblower who first tried to warn the world.
I'm sure history will record Li Wenliang as the hero of this entire pandemic. He recognized that he was seeing people with a bizarre form of pneumonia. He got into a chat room and said, "I think this looks SARS-like." So he posted this. That triggered every alarm in the system. So all 8 of the physicians, including Li Wenliang, were brought before the equivalent of a hospital tribunal and compelled to sign statements declaring themselves liars.
Dr. Ai Fen also went public, saying authorities had stopped her and her colleagues from warning the world. She has now disappeared, whereabouts unknown.
Yeah, so the report also says that a 55-year-old might have been the first patient to contract the virus from the province of Hubei in Wuhan. And after that, 1 to 5 people got infected with the virus. And then after a month, it was about 60 people who were actually infected by coronavirus in China. And that was in November 2019. So the virus, which is now a pandemic, has actually affected so many people, and more people are still being affected by this. Like, a lot of people have died, a lot of people have recovered from it, but all of us, in a way, we're literally being affected by this virus. So on the news, they're telling us that the virus actually came from a wet market in Wuhan in China, and that apparently it came from bats. Yeah. So, like, it kind of ties into with the whole climate change thing, where, like, if deforestation is happening, obviously, like, there's animals, like wild animals, they're gonna migrate and move and find new habitats.
This connection between climate crisis and the coronavirus, we're not hearing very much about this.
Well, we know in a general sense that the climate crisis is resulting in tens of thousands of wild species moving into new places. It's scrambling our migration patterns. And so that's going to contribute to this broader phenomenon of people and wildlife coming into new kinds of contact. We can see with, for example, deforestation, that when you cut down the trees where bats roost, for example, they don't just go away, they come and roost in your back gardens and your farms and your yards instead. And that allows people and bats to come into new kinds of contact, and the microbes that live in their bodies, which don't cause them any kind of disease, can spill over into human bodies, and that's how we turn animal microbes into these epidemic and pandemic causing pathogens.
So the question you want to ask yourself is coronavirus good for the environment?
Could the corona crisis eventually be good for the environment? Goats are conquering empty streets in a British village. As soon as we withdraw, nature quickly takes over. Like these monkeys in Thailand as well.
Images from space. China's air pollution, shown in red, shrunk dramatically between December and March. Thick smog has given way to blue skies. Thanks to closed factories, reduced capacity power plants and fewer cars on the roads, Beijing's residents have been enjoying some unusually fresh spring air. And they're not alone. The air in Europe is better too. Depending on how long the crisis goes on for, the Agora think tank estimates that Germany's greenhouse gas emissions could be 40% lower this year than last. Tourist hotspots are also enjoying some respite. Venice, normally bustling with over 20 million tourists each year, is virtually empty. The water in its many canals, usually dull and murky as a result of the many boats, is suddenly clear. Aircraft are responsible for around 7% of global greenhouse gas emissions. But the booming business is currently very unbooming. International flights have been reduced to a minimum. German carrier Lufthansa, for example, has cut 90% of its long-distance flights.
So if we're to do a timeline, China was the first country, first of all, to get this disease. And the first early undocumented cases were in mid-November. And they continued to get more cases that were later then documented in early December. This obviously led the country to go into an official lockdown by January. Yeah, I think January, in 2020 January. And obviously at this stage, like, the virus has started moving across the world. Like, many countries were being affected by this virus. Like, it was now becoming a pandemic. Like, obviously Europe was affected by end of Feb, and also the USA. And as we speak right now, like, they are still being affected by the virus. So the virus has affected the society, like physically, socially, economically. On the physical and social part, this means, like, you know, we can't see our loved ones, even if they just live down the road from you. Like, obviously, because we have to stay inside, you know, to practice these measures that the government has put in place. And some people who have got like loved ones who are vulnerable to this virus, it's even more harder because they can't see them. Like if they actually want to go visit them, for example, like in care homes or nursing homes or any facility that, you know, helps people who are vulnerable, it's become hard, you know. Like I was speaking to one of my friends recently and she was telling me about her story. She has a brother like who is vulnerable, so I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just gonna let her tell you the story so that you guys can, you know, just hear.
Hey Sophia, thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, so how has coronavirus impacted you socially and physically?
Hi Esther, thanks for your question. In regards to physically, of course we can't really go outside, so it's just hard trying to stick to our normal routine and not keep, you know, doing the same things every day and not get bored. And then as well, just having to be so extra cautious when we're keeping our masks on and having to wash our hands anytime we do go out. Like, and when we do go to the supermarket, we have to like bring everything back and like wash and wipe down everything before we put it away. And like socially, we have to, I mean, I have a disabled family member and they don't live with us. So it's just difficult to come, you know, to see them, and we can't really see them because they are vulnerable. We have to keep that distance. So it's just relying on video chats and calling the carers to see if they're okay. It's difficult, but we just have to know that keeping away is what is keeping them safe.
I understand. And also, how are you moving on with this situation? And what steps are you putting in place to not let it affect you that bad?
So what I've noticed is that when I do watch too much news and listen to so many points of views of where this coronavirus came from, and I listen to the death tolls every day, it really does get me down. I know that it's important to keep informed, but sometimes when you have like a news overload, it really does affect you emotionally. So I kind of took a break from watching news like every couple of hours and just kind of, I don't know, practice the rules that are put in place to keep everyone safe. So social distancing, not going out as often as I want to, you know, washing hands. Even if I'm at home, like if I've gone and touched my handbag, I'll wash my hands after, you know, and trying to keep, you know, safe, and also having, you know, spending all this time with your family at home. I mean, we do get on each other's nerves, but it is nice to spend time and kind of get in touch with each other in a way that we haven't since we were younger. Like me and my sister, we talk a lot more, and I thought we would have fought more in this time, but we're getting to understand what gets on each other's nerves and why we fight.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Obviously, not being able to see our loved ones, like most of the people are joining online activities or starting online activities just so that they can feel connected to their loved ones, you know. And just like even though, like for example, schools and stuff, even though they can't actually go to class and that, teachers are having to do tutorials or like teach students online, or like even university students as well, like they're having to study online, and most of them, like the graduations have been cancelled, like things like that, you know. It actually puts a strain on us. And the social part would be like obviously the social distancing. For example, when you're, even though like you're talking to someone, like you have to literally keep 2 meters apart. And like when you're in shopping centers and stuff, you have to keep 2 meters apart, you know. And you can't shake hands, you can't hug your loved ones, things like that, you know. Like you have to take serious precaution because it's an airborne disease. Okay, I'm not trying to scare you, but you know.
I want to say a massive thank you to all the NHS workers and the key workers and the people that are putting their lives at risk to save other people. Thank you so much.
Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. This is the end of part A. In part B, I'm going to be talking about how this virus has affected us economically and how different countries have reacted to the virus, like the measurements that they've put in place. So I'm going to be talking about 6 countries, 3 that have done bad and 3 that are doing really well to contain the virus, and how the lockdown has affected us, the society. So once again, I'm making this series about just to show you guys what is really out there and to inspire you guys to make your own research, because there's more to the story than what they're telling us. So it's up to you, it's up to me to go out there, look for the truth, and then make up our own minds about it instead of just believing everything that we're told on the news. You know? Alright, catch you guys later.